Oh my God, the stream is live. Hey, Chad.
Yeah.
You know what else is live? The DCU.
It is.
What? We just watched the birth of the DC universe. It is not what I would have chosen to birth the DC. I loved it, of course.
Yeah.
It was totally James Gunn, and that's a good thing. What were your takeaways?
Well, yeah, it is funny, and you've mentioned many times since this whole thing was announced that like we're going to start with Creature Commandos, and we're like, okay.
He's following his bliss, which maybe that's a good or bad thing. I think that it's literally just the thing that excited him the most. Like, I want to jump from Peacemaker to that.
Yeah.
And, somewhere along the line, we're also doing Superman. Like, good.
Well, and what's also possible, I don't know if he said this or not, but since that was something that he knew was going to be ready first, it's possible that they had started production on that before he actually took the job as the studio head. Because he was already doing stuff for them. He said he was offered the Superman job like a year before they offered him the studio job too. So that was which he initially declined the Superman job. So it was all, I don't know. We'll find out. But it's just, it is kind of funny, and it's very much. There was an interview he did recently where he was talking about tone and how the DCU is going to be very variant in tone, diverse in tone. That you're not. This cartoon, this series is very much in the vein of Peacemaker and
Suicide Squad
and the Suicide Squad. And it's like taking the humor and the setting and the characters from those two properties or those two stories and kind of cranking up the salaciousness and the weirdness and the violence up a notch.
I think that this is, and I mean it in the best possible way. He has a formula, and that's not a bad thing, but he's got when I'm watching this, it feels like Guardians and feels like, the Suicide Squad, because what he does is he has this sort of, and he's got a really adept way of doing it. He loves a group of extreme personalities bouncing off each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's obvious. I mean, obviously you can't have, you can have, there's bad. You can have team TV shows or movies where there's not a lot of dynamics. This one is something where he's like going, give me the weirdest ones. And he always does kind of have, here's the ultra violent one. Here's the incredibly innocent one. It's like, because you have to have like the good one and the one that's confused by everyone else's anger and issues. And it's like, okay, so you've got, Nina. You've got Nina Mazursky. Nina, she's your mantis. It's like that, or the rat catcher from the Suicide Squad.
Right.
And it's not that he's cutting and pasting. These characters all have backstory. And the thing he's so good at is you'll be sitting there going, well, this is just going to be chaotic, fun, dumb. And then he'll just like undercut it with like, you don't understand, there's this emotional backstory that this character's working through. Like that second episode, which is all about the bride. It's like, oh, dude, he's hitting James Gunn beats where you're like going, oh, now it's tragic. It's like she was like the toughest and she's totally acerbic. And then it's like, well, the backstory is, she fell in love with not the person she was supposed to. But then, of course, that person was taken away. It's like, wow. So, I mean, it is typical James Gunn, but that is a good thing. So in other words, I enjoyed it. Was I, of course, watching both episodes going like, what else you got, huh? And I was sitting there going like, you gonna put some more of that universe in there? That's the problem, is that we're so, me and you, I think, probably totally excited about, oh my God, this is where a universe is kind of, it's not literally at start, but we're dropped in and this is our first taste of it. So I'm sitting there going like, Belle Reve, of course, it's going to be Belle Reve. There's the prison. It looks exactly like it does in the comics. Which characters are they using? Oh, they're using those characters. That's great. Who's the guest star? Who's the cool voice they're going to have? Like Peter Serafinowicz is Dr. Frankenstein. It's like, oh, great. Even if we never see him again. Cersei, I mean, that's your direct connection. And they talk about Themyscira. And
right off the bat. That was
right off the bat.
So much fun. Yeah.
It's like, there's Wonder Woman right there. Or at least there's the world that she's from. And the idea that Cersei using idiot men, incels, as her army is perfect. both as social commentary and also the fact Cersei from Myth, that's the whole thing, is she bewitches men and she turns them into beasts, which she didn't do in this, but still I was like, awesome, man.
She did turn her arms into
well, I think
whatever you call those things, the
the
promotional
balloon
dancing things.
Yeah. I just was you know, again, that's all funny, but it still ends up being highly dramatic and great. And they changed some characters' powers and origins, and that's what James Gunn feels free to do.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how many of these characters are you familiar with from the comics?
I'm familiar with all of them, but not most of the characters in here were never Creature Commandos, or were from the later Creature Commandos from like the New 52 or Rebirth. Like Frankenstein, Agent of Shade, which was Grant Morrison. That was the first time the Frankenstein monster was turned into a hero in the DC universe. And you're like, okay. And that's fairly recent. And the Bride and all that. These are, Nina is from the new version, but he changed her origin. In the comics, she is one of the main scientists who's responsible for the creation of some of the new Creature Commandos. She did the whole turning into a gill person to herself.
Oh, okay.
And in this version, she's talking about, oh, my father, you know, he was a scientist, and she's like going, I'm not human. And it's like, in the comics, you're human who turned into a gill person, and that's why your name is Nina Mazursky. And
the Bride points kind of has a line that points that out too.
Yeah, so yeah. He's like, you're also the most human of us. Is basically like you have a heart and soul, where a lot of us are jaded and whatever. Dr. Phosphorus was never a Creature Commando. He's a long-standing DC villain. And come on, you can't go wrong with Alan Tudyk. You just can't. You can't go wrong. Is it Batman usually fighting Dr. Phosphorus? He's fought everybody at some point. So Weasel, obviously never a Creature Commando. GI Robot was never a comedy character, but also was never a Creature Commando. However, man, this is me getting nerdy. Yeah, the whole thing is GI Robot was from Weird War Tales, which was the same comic the Creature Commandos debuted in. So the whole idea of Weird War Tales was just like, it's all set in World War II, but these are individual, like he didn't cross over with Creature. Maybe he did. Yeah, maybe he did. GI Robot may in fact have crossed over with the original Creature Commandos, which had a werewolf, a vampire guy. It's like the leader of the team was a woman doctor, but she had snake's hair. She was a Medusa type. Yeah. So in other words, that we didn't get any of those guys. Every version of the Creature Commandos is worth reading, but it was never going to be a huge title. It's fun stuff. So I think you'd enjoy it, is what I'm saying.
So makes sense that James.
Yeah, it makes sense that,
I'm going to turn
James
this into
Gunn's
something
like,
huge.
I want the weird. Give me the weird. We liked it. I'm speaking for both of us, Chad.
Yeah, it wasn't like didn't blow my mind. It was pretty much exactly what I expected.
Yeah, it was James Gunn
and the people that he works with. It's very much in line with the same kind of humor that's in Peacemaker, but it has its own character, it has its own personality too.
Yes, yeah.
But it's a direct spinoff from that storyline. You have
some
of the same characters, and
you have Amanda Waller at the very beginning saying, "Oh, that's Weasel, the only survivor of what we call Project Starfish, or the Starfish mission, or whatever it was."
I like that they
the Suicide Squad. One thing, I mean, talk about that soundtrack, by the way. It was just sitting there going like, what are these choices? These are awesome, but what are these? This wasn't like him like doing the Guardians thing where it's like,
well, this was
top
like
47.
It was all Gogo Bordello. It was all,
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, which was great. And Eugene Hutz actually had a cameo.
Yes,
towards the end of it.
That was awesome. The characters introduced in animation. Which are you what are you hoping? Oh, that's a good question.
Like on the show, I guess.
I think so. Yeah, from like this.
Obviously, yeah. I want to see Bride. I want to see Bride, man. She's cool.
She is, and of course, the way he cast everybody, you look at their pictures and you're like, yeah. Indira Varma, I've always loved, and she would be awesome. She is that statuesque and beautiful, and she could kick all of our asses. So the Bride, I would say yes. I've already seen Weasel. He's a CG, so I'm not that excited. I would love to see GI Robot. I just want to see a robot walking around talking about killing Nazis constantly.
I want to see them all, but I'm really taken with Indira Varma's portrayal
Of
of this
course,
character. So,
of course, and I will say that Zoe Chow would be interesting to see her as Nina, because she's not quite the full-on match.